Hi everyone, we have a Mark III here and a Mark IV. We put up the individual breakdown videos on how to take them down, but we wanted to go over some of the differences and actually break them down side by side so you can see the differences. Lots of similarities, but there is lots of differences. A couple things I want to point out first, though, is the Mark III here has had a Volquartsen trigger put in and also a Hogue overmold grip. Otherwise, the grips would be the same and the triggers would be very similar. Otherwise, you can tell this is more flat black. This is a shinier black. These have been changed from little knobs to what you would see typically on other handguns. The mags are the same, or the mag buttons are the same. Magazines are different, just ever so slightly. The main thing here is your Mark III mag actually seats up in there, but when you look at your Mark IV mag, it does not. Also, Mark IV has iron sights on it. The Mark III doesn't. They both have rails, which is always handy. And I would say that just about sums up most of the differences on the outside there. One difference I do want to point out is that these magazines eject nicer, seat nicer. You got a little bit of a spring assist there, whereas on the Mark III, you do not have that. So they eject nicer and they seat nicer. That was one of the problems we've seen with the Mark III is trying to get those magazines seated properly and well enough so you don't have feeding issues was sometimes a struggle. Okay, so we're going to break down the Mark IV first. I'm going to go ahead and remove the magazine. I want to make sure that this is under tension. That's important. And is different than how you would break down the Mark III. We have to make sure that the safety is on. And then we go ahead and press the button in the back here, and it comes apart. It's pretty simple. I'm going to go ahead and leave those in 3 pieces, like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and break down the Mark III. So you got to make sure the tension is off. With the Volquartsen trigger, I removed the California safety. That's why I was able to do that without the mag in. But let's go ahead and pull the lever on the back. Then we'll pull the pin. Then gotta jiggle the trigger sometimes to get that to pull out. Then press that forward. Well, broken down in the 4 pieces versus our 3 pieces, not including the mag. Now, these look awfully similar. I don't know. I mean, there's a little bit. Nope, that's the same. I mean, I'm not seeing a difference so far. I think they're exactly the same, but I could be mistaken. But put that back there. So those appear to be the same. Let's look at the uppers on these. So this is where we're going to see a lot of the differences. So typically the bottom half for the Mark III would slide up in here and then slide forward, whereas you can see here it has more of a pivot action than a sliding action in that regard. Otherwise, same big hole, square hole. And I mean, everything else looks very similar. Then let's look at our lowers. Now, we can see here, obviously, this has what this would be the equivalent to back here. Looks like some of the safety mechanisms might be maybe slightly different, if at all. Obviously, the buttons, like we discussed, were different. The hammer looks different. So I don't know if you would need a different kit for a trigger change for the Mark IV than the Mark III. I'm not sure, but again, very minute differences here. Otherwise, they're almost the same. So taking them apart really didn't take much difference time-wise, but putting them back together is really where we should see the difference. So I'm going to go ahead and do the Mark IV. I'm going to put in a slide. And that. And it's together. I can't lower the hammer without that being in, that being off. So we're all good there. That took all of 10 seconds. Now on this one, we go ahead and slide this back in. Then I'm going to, I think I did that backwards, guys. Let's do this. Let's put this back together. Let's do this. I have it upside down. All right. Jiggle the trigger a little bit sometimes. So as you can see, we are having difficulties with the Mark III. I mean, it's possible I have done something wrong, but I don't believe so. It should be good there. Okay, so I don't know if I did something different or if it just decided it finally wanted to work. Or you had the little dangly thing in there. You have to avoid it first. And then we will slide that pin up through. And as we discussed before in mine, I just tap it to get it up through. Okay, that's up through. Get the dangly thing in position. Okay. This again. Pin came out a little bit. I'm hitting something. There it is. What I did to resolve that was I pulled the trigger a little bit. I got the dangly thing where it's supposed to be. I can see I'm under tension. That back in. Now we're operational again. So that clearly, even excusing the issue I was having with getting the slide in, that clearly took longer to put back together than the Mark IV. Which is really the big selling point over the Mark III, is the easier takedown and reassembly. If you guys have any questions regarding any of this, please leave it in the comments. Otherwise, we hope you enjoyed the video and found it helpful. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks.